You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra. Some verses say the serpent. The young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Here's another contrast. And why is this important? Because the lion represents the most powerful beast in the jungle. We have called the lion the king of the jungle. It represents the manifested power in creation, in the animal kingdom. It represents the known power in this animal. This animal can take pretty much any other animal. And it's a fact. You see a lion, you better walk your distance. You better not find yourself between the lion and the cubs. It's visible. You don't need to investigate. You don't need to seek a lion. They're right there. They're huge. But then it also compares it with the serpent. You don't find the serpent walking on the street. The serpent represents the hidden danger. That which you can get very close and still be very in danger without knowing it's right next to you. That before you know it, it's not at you. And it bites you. It represents the very near danger, but yet hidden. And the only way it becomes visible is if you are under the shadow of the Almighty. I finish with this. Verse 14, it says, the same God that begins speaking in verse 1 and 2, the Most High, Almighty, the Lord, my God, Adonai. The same God who begins to make promises in verse 1 and 2 is the same one that ends speaking on the last 3 verses of the psalm. And he says, I will deliver him. I will set him on high because he has known my name. The secret of being in God's presence is knowing his name. If anybody is visiting us this morning, you find yourself confused, and you do not know where to turn, here's a key answer right here. You need to be delivered from your situation. We need to know his name. Because he has known my name. Which name is that? Elion, Almighty, the Lord my God. Whether it's my provider, whether it's my shield, God my provider, God my standard. When I'm lost, I'm found as long as I see him. As long as I recognize that he's by my side. Verse 14 says, I will deliver him. Verse 15 says, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him. And verse 16 says, I will satisfy him. 4 different ways. For God to emphasize that he can deliver us from that which we need to be delivered from. I leave you with this song so we can recognize that God is one. The deliverer is one. The scriptures tell us of 4 ways to call upon his name. But in the end, the one that concludes the promises is the same one. It's not David saying, I'm going to deliver you. It's not the preacher says, I'm going to get you out of trouble. It's not the pastor that can get you out of trouble. God is the one that can get you out of trouble. That's why the promises are personalized in him, in his names, in the hidden meanings of his names, but now are known to us because his word is light unto our feet. It is a light unto our path. I want to make an altar call at this moment. Which God do you trust? Which God do you trust? Do you trust in your insurance policy? we glorify in our lives, anything that we give it honor, can potentially become an earthly God in our own lives. What do we trust more? Do we trust our instincts more than we trust God? That could become a God in itself, a powerless God. Or do we trust the God of Abraham, of Isaac and Jacob, the God that makes the covenant and doesn't break it, the God that makes the promises and brings them to fulfillment, the God who can only give you the shadow that you need on a hot day, on a very difficult day. I want to ask for you to please bow your heads.